Hello, YouTube land. This is Brent coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. If anyone out there has a story they'd like to share here on this channel, you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. It can be Bigfoot, Dogman, any kind of supernatural type story, any story like this one you're about to hear. And I'll leave the email address in the description so you can go down and look and see how it is exactly spelled if you need to do that. brentonsawin@gmail.com. If anyone wants to contribute to help me with the show, it's greatly appreciated, especially at the beginning of the year like this. You can go to a link in the description, PayPal me, and it's super easy to use. It's the most user-friendly type link that you can use to make a contribution to a show that you want to help support. So you can go to the description and click on PayPal me, and it'll take you through the steps. It's super easy to use, and I appreciate every contribution that I've received. I can guarantee that. Today we have something a little bit different from the cryptid genre. And I'm trying to get some more of these supernatural, paranormal type stories because, I don't just cover cryptids. So, anyway, I have a fellow named John that's coming to share something really, really interesting. I just got done recording a Bigfoot story. So, there should be two shows come up about the same time. And the guy who I interviewed about the Bigfoot story, I told him about this one. He's like, dude, you got to go get that one, man. I want to hear that one so bad. So I thought, yeah, I'll try to get that one tonight also. And anyway, John was super cool about giving me his time this evening, even though it was very late. And I'm going to let John introduce himself, and we'll get into this story that you're going to find very interesting. Hello, John.
Oh, hey there, Britton.
Hey, man, if you would give an introduction to yourself, man. Tell whatever you want to, your full name if you want, and where you live, and anything about your background that you want to share.
Yes, sir. My name is John Kelly. I live in Angleton, Texas, about an hour south of Houston. I currently work for security. It's pretty basic right now, just mainly access control, but I take it pretty seriously, as any professional should in their field. Let me see. As far as hobbies go, I like to exercise, do some geocaching, just some hiking. Nothing too extensive. Just get out there and enjoy nature. And let me see. I've been to Renaissance a few times. I love it out there. I love seeing the people, the shows, and all the costumes and stuff. And I myself have a full set of Spartan gear, which cost roughly around like $1,200. So I go out there and just try to really embody the Spartans from history. But anyway, just an introduction, just a little piece out of my life. But go ahead, Brenton.
All right, that sounds like a good introduction to me. Now when you emailed me, man, it was my goodness, dude, it was such a strange story. It's like, man, I've got to hear this. This is the most bizarre thing I believe I've ever heard. I mean, I've heard a
Yes,
lot of
sir.
crazy stuff, dude, but this is really one of the top ones, man. I've never heard such a thing in my life.
And that's
So
been.
go
I'll go
ahead.
ahead. And that was the odd thing, was when I was searching for people who had experiences, and when you search like possession, it really does take you to like your cut and dry, and not to downplay anybody's possession experience, but I can't really source anything similar, and that's some difficulties I've been having with my experience, because it seemed very different, and with mine, when I was, and that's kind of the only way I can explain it, when my body was taken over by whatever entity or beings did possess me at that time. I try to source something to kind of piece it together, see if I can click onto anything, but I really haven't been able to source it.
Yeah, I know it's very different from what you typically hear. So I don't know if people are kind of getting what we're talking about just yet, but
Right.
typically a possession is something that you would be possessed with your own consciousness in your body, but you had something kick you out of your body and took possession of your body, and
Yeah,
you
there's no
and
question
you
that.
watched it. So that's very very awkward and very strange, and it makes me think that there was something very very different going on there. So I guess there's really no other thing to do than you kind of tell it like you
Experience it.
similar to what you wrote to me, because it was fairly easy to understand what you wrote, and then elaborate from there, if you would.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay. So this took place when I was about 7. It was during the daytime, roughly between 8 o'clock and 12, somewhere in there. Because the memory was it was daytime, and I had invited my friend over, and I'm 7 when this took place, and my friend was just around the same age also. So I invited him over. It's a regular weekend. Kids getting together. Just playing whatever games we could find, and we had a Super Nintendo. So we were in there playing, and my grandmother's in there in the kitchen. She's washing dishes, and I feel like a pressure in the room, and the pressure dropped. And I remember thinking, that felt real funny. And then the next thing I knew, I was roughly 6 to 7 feet away from my body, and I was looking at myself, and I was looking at myself talk to my friend, but it wasn't in English. It was very fast paced. And I was thinking, why can't I understand myself? Being 7 at the time. So I'm watching these two beings talk to each other, and I can't remember the language, and because that way I could try to source it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so long ago. I really can't. At the time, you don't think as a 7-year-old, hey, pay attention to what they're saying.
Right.
And then my
So,
grandmother, she was.
hold on for a minute. Okay, so
All right,
something knocks you out of your body, and you're
right.
looking at your own body,
Yes, like an out of body
and
experience.
you're talking in a language you don't understand to your friend.
Right, and I know that my friend had the same thing going on, because whatever had possessed us, they were communicating clearly. Like there was a
Okay.
conversation going
So
on.
your friend got knocked out of his body also.
Yeah, and I've talked to him about this, and he does not remember. And he was asking me about it. I was like, yeah, whatever took over me took over you also. And he
Okay.
was just like very very concerned and confused.
So he knew something happened also.
He really couldn't remember, and I think, and I'm just speaking from experience. Maybe his consciousness handled it differently.
Right.
Maybe we weren't supposed to remember.
Right. But did he think something happened, or
He remembers that day, and like when we were playing, and then he can't remember that specific part of the day though.
okay. All right. So he knew there was something that happened. There,
Right.
maybe if he.
Kind of like a loss of time.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Go ahead.
So my grandmother, and she's just kind of frozen in place. Like she didn't move the entire time that this conversation was going on. And so as soon as they finished talking, I remember being drawn back to my body, and I kind of was sitting there, and then there was just like this moment of silence where we were looking around. I looked at my grandmother, and she was looking at me kind of wide eyed, and she knew that something very strange had happened, and I didn't know what to do.
Wow. Dude,
Yeah.
that is so crazy, man. I've never heard of nothing like that. That is the most bizarre thing. That's unbelievable. So your grandma even knew that there was something weird that just had happened.
Right. And she's very very hardcore Christian, and I'm not talking like your fanatic, but she's
Right,
very locked down on her like her morals and following the
right.
Bible.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with being a hardcore Christian. That's awesome.
Oh no, not at all.
Being a
Everybody
hardcore Christian is a good thing. That might be what could help you. You know,
right,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Being firm in your belief,
Oh
um,
no, yeah, yes sir.
without
I believe
being
everybody should.
dogmatic. I understand what you're saying. She wasn't a
Yes sir,
dogmatic
exactly.
Christian. She was a Christian to the core, but she wasn't dogmatic so much as that she pounded people over the face with it to, be a
Exactly.
weapon. I got you. Cool.
Yes sir.
Go ahead.
And whenever I talk to her about it, she knows it happened, but she's just kind of at a loss to explain it because she didn't get possessed because they weren't talking to her or anything like that. It was just clearly between whatever had taken over or possessed our bodies.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I would even call it a possession because if it evacuated your spirit from your body, it
Exactly.
it it took it kind of almost my goodness, I don't even know what you would call that because typically when you're possessed, you don't get pushed out, you get possessed with it,
Right.
and you're there with it, with the thing, so your spirit stays in your body. But this thing
Yes, sir.
seemed to push your spirit out and took over your body, so you never were possessed. It stole your body.
Yeah,
you
invasion of the
know?
body snatchers.
Yeah. I mean, goodness, that's what I'm saying. I've never heard. I have heard of one incident similar, and it was a buddy I used to play some music with, and this dude was not a very, I was a Christian, so we played music, and he kind of was a little darker, what I mean, but he was a good singer and stuff, and I
Sure.
was trying to, reach out to him and talk to him, and eventually, it was getting through to him, the whole Jesus message and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But he came back. He came up missing for like a couple weeks, and I was like, I wonder where the heck he went,
Man,
It's like
exactly.
where'd he
Yeah.
go, and he came back over to my house, man. He said, dude, because he knew I told him about my story when I was 5 years old, and that red entity came out of the wall with the horns and stuff, and he grabbed a hold of me, and
Oh wow.
that kind of thing, and so he knew that I'd had an encounter like that, and this being was real because my sister walked in and she watched this being grab a hold of me and stuff.
Oh man, that's
Yeah, so
that's
it was
insane.
red and it had curled ram horns, and she saw it. She looked right at it. So there's no way to say you hallucinated or you
Right.
had a
You were asleep, you half asleep,
yeah,
and just
sleep paralysis, or when someone else watches it happen, it's not sleep paralysis. I don't care what anybody
right.
says.
Yeah,
But
clearly that was reality.
yeah. So, but anyway, he said, dude, um, he said, all I remember is there was I was outside my body, looking at my body laying on the ground, and there was this blue demon thing standing on me. And he said this thing had one of his feet were like a hand that he could choke you
Whoa.
with when he stood on you. So
Yeah, see, that seems like that's specifically made for that.
yeah, I know, man. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He said this thing it was like a blue demon thing, and one of the feet was a hand, and he had the hand on his neck. But the weird thing was, is it was choking him with that foot, and he had, the other foot was a real foot, and then he had a hand foot, and this thing was blue and it had horns, and it was yelling at him. He said this thing was yelling
Really?
at me to
Oh
get.
man.
He said the thing was yelling at me. He said, "Get back in your body!" Like he was mad because he came out of his body. It's
That's
like
funny.
get back in
Right.
there now. I was like, I'm gonna have to pull a kind of crazy out or something. But he was
If
like
it's
yelling
not.
at, it's like,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
what's up with that?
If it's not traumatizing enough that you have, a demon on you, it's sitting there screaming at you. That's even more traumatizing.
Yeah, and it was telling him to get back in his body. So it had caused him to come out of his body because it seemed to be killing him and stuff. But it was yelling at him to get back in it.
Kind of seemed like it was mad that he wasn't getting the full effect of it screaming at him.
Yeah, and it made me kind of wonder because I don't know if you remember the Marine guy that I had on the show that had accidentally hung himself with the noose that they were playing around with in the barracks.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and yeah, and he came out of his body. And they all thought they were playing around and stuff. So the rest of the guys didn't think that he had died. They thought,
Right, and it's
man,
hard for
he's
that
horrible.
brain to.
Yeah. Anyway, he said that he went and tried to get back in his body, and when he went to try to get back in his body, he did it face to face. His body was sitting there, and he went face to face to his body, and it rejected him out like electricity
Hmm.
hit him, and like he got tased or something. Bam! It knocked him
Oh
backwards.
wow.
And then they had gotten his body out of the noose because they were scared that it's like, oh my gosh, he's dead, and they
Yeah, he's
got it.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, so they got his body out of the noose and they put him on the cot, and they were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to tell everybody, because they were afraid they're going to get in trouble for murder or something. So
Right. Playing
he's
around.
sitting outside his body watching all this. So he went and sat down on his body. He put his foot inside of his foot, his other foot inside the other foot, and lined his feet up and legs and everything. And he looked back to see how he was laying, however they had him laying on that cot. And he tried to
Right.
line himself up perfectly, and he laid back down into his body. And when he did, he was instantly in outer darkness. So that made me wonder on this other thing if this thing was telling him to get back in his body because it's the door to the other realm. You know what I'm saying? Because when you think
Right.
about when Jesus said in the Bible, it says that Jesus' flesh is the gate to the Holy of Holies. So it's like there's gateways to other realms, but it is through flesh. When you're born into this world to get here, you die from this world, you go to another realm, but every once in a while you pop out into this realm,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
ain't supposed to
Definitely.
be here, so you get back in your body to get to the other side. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Right.
so when you were out of your body, you were still here, but it's because of
Yes, sir.
your,
Yes, sir. It was.
you know what I'm saying? So your silver cord's not cut. If you had it got like in Ecclesiastes, it talks about the silver cord that you have. If that gets cut, you're done. You're out of here. Um,
Totally separated.
yeah, you're separated from your flesh, and I don't think you were. I think it pushed you out, but you weren't separated from your flesh yet. You know what I'm saying? It
Right.
it tried to possess you too, but it just pushed you out of your body because God wasn't going to allow you to be in that body with those things. You see
Yeah,
what
and
I'm
that's
saying?
it's. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
that's my
man.
guess.
Right.
From
Yeah.
what I
I'll take
know.
any input on it that you want to give because I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's
like
that's my
even when I.
my guess from what I know about the Bible and what I know about Scripture and stories I've collected and what have you is that God was not going to allow them things they seemed to be powerful enough to do what they did, but God wasn't going to allow them to be in there with you. So you popped out. You got to see what happened, and something must have drove them off. Do you remember anything what happened that made it stop?
I think they finished whatever conversation they were having, and I don't know, I really wished they would have like maybe translated their language so I could understand them or something like that, something to understand what they were trying to or what they were talking about. And while I was out of my body, I didn't feel like I had arms or anything. It was just strictly my consciousness. And I don't suffer from any mental health issues or anything like that. I don't have any ill effects from this experience. No mental damage or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Now you said it was your mom that was in the kitchen, and
No, it was my grandmother.
your grandma. Okay.
Yes, sir.
A lot of times these experiences happen with grandmothers. You know that?
It could have been. I can see
Because it
why.
seems like it skips a generation on the kind of activity people experience. It goes from grandmother, it skips the mother, and it goes to the grandchildren on the level in which people experience things. So a lot of times, if you experience things that are really bizarre, you're best to go to your grandmother to ask about it, because they seem to have experienced things like that
Right. I agree.
more than the mother. So I think maybe the grandmother, being a Christian the way she was, is probably what saved you and your friend, um, to be able to get past it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm glad it did. That I did receive help. And then I do think that maybe her faith may have drawn them. I'm not sure because I don't know if they were like spiritual entities or I've even thought about it being like screen memories, but I don't think it was like an abduction case, because it really doesn't kind of seem like it was leaning toward that way. Like some of the usual telltales.
Yeah.
But it has crossed my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like there was something demonic that came in and tried to do something, but they realized that it wasn't going to happen, because when they took you over, they knew they were talking to each other and saying, um, it, just kind of a guess, but it seemed like they were, saying this isn't going to work. The people aren't here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the grandmother, she's in the kitchen all wide-eyed and all what have you. But afterwards, now after you went back to your body, do you remember going back to your body?
Yeah, I remember being drawn back in and then resuming consciousness as soon as their conversation ended. And then my friend was just kind of looking at me, and the same thing with my grandma. There was just that moment of silence where we were kind of like, resetting, or kind of like, oh my, something crazy just happened, and we're not sure how to respond to it.
Right. Any other details that you remember about later, or any other stuff that happened, or?
And that's the weird thing, is like, as soon as this event happened, and then I really, there hasn't been any other, follow up situations. So it was kind of like a one shot deal, which I thought was kind of odd too. But that was pretty much my experience.
And that was it, huh?
Yes, sir.
So did you think that it eventually was something that was, because I think, like, my encounters and things like that I've had eventually were used for good, even though they weren't good. that God turned them for my good so that I would know things. You know what I'm saying? Do,
Yes,
do
sir.
you feel like it was a good thing, or in the long run it was a bad thing, or how do you feel about it now?
And it's a really weird like stance on it, because it wasn't like it was kind of like in the middle. I really wasn't. I didn't have any trauma from it, but as far as I can tell, it didn't have like any kind of serious impact on me. I mean, there's still always that thing, like, I had something take over my body, and it was, like cognitive, and it was capable of speech, and it was something paranormal that I can't explain. And it,
But since then, I know the one thing that it did for me, when ever since 5 years old, when I had something come and grab a hold of me, and it was, a red-looking horned creature in front of my sister, and she sees it and stuff like that. It made me always know there was a spiritual side of life. Now, so I could never deny that there was such thing as God or a devil. Now,
yes,
did
sir.
did
And
did did you always feel that way? Like you knew from then on, there is such thing as God and there's such thing as devils.
yes, sir. Yeah, and that really kind of hit the nail on the head, because that really, and that's the way I did feel. It was like I knew that there were, a spiritual side to life, and so that is the positive that I could take from that, is knowing that there's spirits out there, and God, and kind of the other side of the coin.
Right, right. Because there's a lot of people in this life that thinks that that's foolishness, and that's a horrible thing because it's not. It's not foolishness at
Right,
all.
right.
That's a very real aspect. Actually, that is more real than this realm, because that realm lasts forever. This one doesn't.
Right. We all return to the earth, or at least
Yeah.
our bodies do.
And are you a Christian, or are you um, what?
I kind of find myself in the middle, like, because of my experience, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Kind of in that middle place. But I
Yeah.
still hold the beliefs of a Christian, because that's how I was raised, and I believe that it does lead to manners and being a good person. That's things I strive to embody. I'm still trying to figure it out, still trying to find my way.
Okay. Well, at least there's a spiritual aspect to things, and
Oh yes, sir.
and you know, I kind of had the experience that where I saw what I thought was a devil, and I seen that there was something that intervened. What I'm saying. To me, it
Oh
leaned
yeah.
more towards Christianity. And when I leaned towards Christianity, then the attacks that I had on my life began to be, um, uh, I could
Besides,
stop it. You know what I mean?
okay,
Uh,
there you
um,
go.
so it made sense to me in that aspect, but I can see how yours might have been a little more left into to interpretation, because it wasn't like real clear on what happened. But where your
All right.
grandmother was a Christian, I really believe that your grandmother is a key element in the story. Um,
Yes, sir. I
and
believe so too.
yeah, because things happened with your grandmother there, and I think that maybe it was the link that your grandmother had that saved the situation, because instead of letting you be possessed, because to be possessed, it means that a spirit has to come into your not just your body, but into your soul. But your soul kicked out, uh,
Yes,
and
sir.
so you observed it from a distance,
Oh yeah.
and and so I would give a lot of credit to the grandmother and her faith that probably guarded you from what could have happened.
Right. If she wouldn't have been there, it may have turned out differently.
It could have, yeah. I mean, and that's my estimation on it. But from the things that I've heard and gathered and what have you, it seems like there's a grandmother, and then it passes the parents, and then the grandchildren. It skips a generation, and so having the experience with the grandmother, even sometimes the Bigfoot encounters happen with the grandmother first, and then the grandchildren. Um, it's kind of strange, but that's kind of the way that it goes.
Yes, sir.
But
And that's interesting.
you got a fascinating story, I'll tell you that. Is there
Yeah.
anything else about it you can think of that you've wondered about or thought about or kind of contemplated? Anything else that has happened throughout your life?
I had they always talk about the shadow people, and I did have that happen a little bit later in life, and I didn't know if it may have been that same thing coming back and checking on me to see if it could attempt it again. But the thing with that one is I didn't feel the pressure drop in the room like before, and so I knew that it was probably not the same entities that had came down the first time. But
Well, no, shadow people are unclean spirits for sure. They
okay,
would be the type that would possess. They are disembodied. Typically, I think the shadow people are disembodied spirits that are kicked out of their habitation or their body or what have you. I believe that the shadow people are the unclean spirits that the scriptures speak of, that typically when they get in people, they cause issues, they cause health problems, they cause different problems, possession issues, like you would see in the scripture where when the Lord would cast someone out and they would foam at the mouth or whatever, and that kind of stuff. So, and I've had my own encounters with the shadow people. Um, yeah, I mean, tell me about whatever happened with the shadow thing, man. What did you have happen?
uh, it took place in my room. So I'd come home and from school, and I was getting ready to wind down for the night. After doing some homework and watching little TV, and like a regular high schooler would do. And so I had laid down. It was probably about 11 because I usually am a night owl anyways, and I just felt kind of like I was having like uneasy, falling asleep. It's like, because I knew I was gonna be tired from what I went through all day, and it just kind of kept growing, and it felt like there was this presence there. And I'm like, that feels really weird. I feel like somebody's like really angry at me, and like there's just somebody in here with me. So I was like, I gotta look. I gotta see if there's, this kind of, and that's when I kind of opened my eyes and when you look at darkness, you wouldn't think that there could be anything darker, but then and there was an outline, and there was just this hate that was staring back at me, and it felt kind of like a heart attack, and
Huh.
I remember, yeah, it was pretty intense. Like if I've ever felt fear before. It was really potent.
So when you say you saw a outline, can you describe like the shape?
It was kind of like your regular humanoid appearance. Legs, arms. the outline of a head, and it was maybe 4 feet from me. You know, it was just kind of like right on the edge of my bed. Yeah, and you know, I wasn't gonna move, and I was like, I know I need to do something. So that's when the only thing I could think of was, you know, calling on Jesus. You know.
Right.
Uh,
And that worked, right?
And that's when. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It did.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, you know, I've had a few experiences with the shadow people, and one of them, the thing seemed like a shadow, but kind of solid, you know. And then
Sure.
another time I had an experience with a shadow person. I I wasn't even asleep yet, you know. I was laying down and I was trying to get comfortable, and I was in a recliner, and
Right.
I was just moving around a little bit. I just laid down too. I mean, 30 seconds maybe, you know. So there's no way I was asleep, and I was kind of wiggling around and stuff, and I had my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I opened
Getting
my eye,
adjusted.
yeah, I opened my eyes up, dude, and the thing was standing, leaning over me.
Right.
His face was 2 feet from my face, and
Trying to draw your fear out.
yeah, something like that. And I looked and I saw creases in his face. I saw eyeballs that looked like regular solid eyeballs, and the irises were like a dirty white. Um, but it looked like it was a solid creature. It wasn't like a shadow. That kind of shocked me, man. I was like, oh my goodness. But it was so
Yeah.
dark. It was so dark that it almost looked like an Ace of Spades type head shape. I didn't know if it
Oh,
had
man.
like the hood on or something, like, you know, the hooded type creature or
A
something like
shroud.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like, would you?
he had a Grim Reaper looking deal or something, um, but that was the first time I ever thought of things that could possibly be solid,
Yeah,
manifested all the
it's
way into
very,
this realm.
and your brain does have like a trouble dealing with something that you know is semi solid, I should say, because you
Yeah,
know that it's like it's darkness, but it does have presence.
yeah, yeah. It scared me so bad that I jumped back in the recliner, and the recliner flipped over, and I rolled off the other side of the recliner, and it jumped up, and it was gone. And I instantly start praying, you know,
Right.
for protection and what have you.
It makes me curious if these shadow people feed
Yeah,
off fear.
but I typically thought of shadow people as disembodied, unclean spirits that could, you know, that they didn't have bodies. But this one seemed to have a body. It was so black, though. I mean, but it was so close to me. I could see the features in his face. I could see wrinkles in the face. I could see, you know, regular eyes, eyeballs, and irises, and all that kind of stuff. So to me,
Right. That's
this
very detailed.
particular one, that wasn't. This particular one was not a disembodied. It had a body. I don't know
Okay.
what for sure this one was. The you know, last one I saw. If it was something that was just so evil that had no light in it at all, you know, because the Lord talked about some creatures that have no light in them at all. And if you have looked at these kind of things for long enough, you'll see that there are. Well, take for instance the creature that when I was 5 years old, it it was red, had curled ram horns, and you know, and it looked like if you were to put your hand over a flashlight in the dark, it makes it glow orange. His whole body was like that, so it had light in it. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like it was a
Yeah.
fallen creature. It was like a fallen angel or something. And it, it was horned, fallen angel, kind of devil kind of creature. But there's
Right.
some of them that are so bad. Jesus said that there's some types that have no light in them at all, and they only would come out by prayer and fasting and stuff like that. Uh, so there seems to be different degrees of how evil something is. And if they're so evil that they have no light in them at all, um, when that Marine fellow that hung himself on accident, when he went into outer darkness after he tried to get back in his body, he
Right.
said he could see below his feet. He was standing on like a floor that wasn't there. He said, but I could see
Right.
below my feet. So it was like it was strange to him because it was pure darkness. But he said I could see underneath my feet, like I was standing on a floor that was not there. And he said that I realized there was a little bit of light coming from me. So, you know what I'm saying? So typically, I think there's light that comes from people. Even the Lord said, "I'm the light of the world." And so, and when people have near death experiences, sometimes they see a immensely bright creature. That Marine fellow ended up having an encounter with an angel that it appeared first as light, and then he ended up seeing it closer. So, is it that there are some creatures that are so evil, there's no light in them at all? Because the one I saw so close up, dude, it was so black
Oh
that
yeah.
you could
How do you
not
handle
see
that?
it. It was so black in the darkness. I could see it, and the room was
Yeah.
black. Like you're saying, the room was black, but you could still see the outline of it. It was so black
Oh
that
yeah.
it showed up in the blackness, and there
It's
was no
darker
light
than
in it.
black.
I could see creases. I could see, so
Details.
there's something there that people could grab onto and kind of contemplate a little bit. There's something to that, don't you think?
I do. Yeah. There's and it does raise a lot of questions. What brought this on, and what allowed this experience to happen. Uh,
All right.
and then yeah, you're just kind of left reeling, kind of searching for answers. After all this takes place, are they going to come back? I know it'll mess with you for a few nights. Worried about looking over your shoulder or something in the corner of the room. Looking to follow up now that they've kind of stirred you up and kind of shaken you. Kind of what they're playing off of.
The good thing is that you were calling on Jesus and it helped. Okay. So
Oh yeah.
therefore, I think that causes you to reflect back on what might have caused the incident. And
Right.
I know how God is. He's going to help direct you to what it might be that's causing it. And I'm not even going to ask, but I think that you might have reflected and thought about things that were going on in your life at the time. But I think that there's only two realms. There's the realm of God. And there's the realm of um, Satan. I mean, period. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Satan meaning the adversary, because Satan is a term that means adversary, kind of like Pharaoh. There was lots of different names of people who were pharaohs, but you could say Pharaoh, and it would mean whoever the adversary was. So the word Satan means adversary. You could have many different adversaries, and they could be all
Oh
labeled Satan. Um,
yes.
I think that the Lord is going to be dealing with each individual on an individual level, and it sounds like He's been dealing with you throughout time and letting you know, hey, there's something that caused that. there's something going on in your life, and we don't have to get into that. We can talk about that individually or anytime you want to talk about it. But
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
there was something that might have drawn that in, or you know, look, dude, I've done that myself, man. I've drawn stuff in on my own, um, because I was doing things that allowed it. You know what I'm saying? Not meaningly, but the thing is that God's always good. He's going to show you. He's like, hey, this is letting stuff in, or something like
Right.
that.
Trying
So
to guide me back to Him through these experiences.
right, exactly. Dude, you guys, that to me, it's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, man. Unbelievable. To have something take you over and is talking to your friend. That is crazy, man.
Right. And that language, I've not heard anything similar.
Yeah, they were talking in a language that's not known,
It was really fast, and like it just kind of like I've always tried to think back and try to remember at least something, but
I wonder what they were saying.
Right, I've no idea. From maybe discussing my life to, if it was, kind of an evil being, if they were trying to say like, hey, this isn't going to work because, maybe, Jesus was looking over me and they're like, hey, we got to get out of here because this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Hey, we got to get out of here, dude. This ain't cool. This didn't work out like we planned.
Right.
That's what I think. Something like that.
Right.
Dude,
And that,
look, I'm keeping your number, for sure, and I want you to.
oh yeah, definitely.
I want you to holler back at me, man, and keep my
Yes,
number.
sir.
Now, I'll have to send you my cell number so that you can call me anytime you want. Okay. I think
Yes, sir. That sounds good.
I did text you. You got my email and stuff, but you know, I guess you don't have my cell number. I didn't ever call you on my cell. But we'll be in contact, man. I think this is fascinating, and I want to keep up with you, dude, because I want to make sure that you're going towards the right way, and after this episode airs, don't let anyone offend you on the comments or anything like that. So
right, that's fine. I know there's a the Lord is
okay.
huge, so it's fine.
We'll be talking, man, and make sure if you don't hear from me, just message me back, okay? And
oh yeah, definitely.
we'll be talking, and I'll send you my phone number too, so that you can talk anytime you want. Cool.
I appreciate that, Brent.
All right, man. Well, hold on the line there. Everybody
Okay.
out there in YouTube land, I really appreciate you listening. I really thought this was just such a fascinating story. So I appreciate it if you would, give your thanks to John here for sharing, something that's not easy to share for everybody. So, say thank you, and I appreciate that. And like I said, you can share your stories at brentonsawin@gmail.com and contribute at the link in the description. And until next time, God bless you.